All right. Hello, everyone. This is the Wireheads podcast. I am Emmerron. This is part 2 of our episode this week, which is episode 20, which is utterly fucking insane that we are here. We've survived a Gen Con on top of it, where quite a few people, as I understand it, got COVID. We did not. I got a head cold, which sucked still, but it didn't suck as bad. It could have sucked more, and it didn't. Thank God. Joining me as always, though, is my co-host.
I'm Diamond Dust, and if you are looking for the first half of the episode, it is in the link below.
Yes, it is over on her channel. If you're new and this is the first time you're watching us, hello, welcome. On YouTube, we split in half just so each of us can get a little traffic on our channels, because we do a lot of content besides the podcast. From actual plays to guides to things like that for the game. So if you are interested in any of that, both of us have stuff like that on our channel. We would love for you to watch it. But if you're watching this either live on Twitch, we both stream it live, or on Spotify. We've got one cohesive episode that I produce every week as the editor, to make sure that you guys don't have to jump around to different playlists and stuff, because Spotify, it's not anywhere near as easy as it is on YouTube to split it. So we share credit on there. So that said, so this is my half of the episode. So we also alternate every week who covers which topics. Part 1 is on the odd episodes is me. On the evens, it's Diamond. Part 2, that means this week is mine. So on Diamond's part of the episode, we talked a little bit about making effective enemies, what that entails at a really basic level and what that looks like. On my half of the episode, I thought we'd talk a little bit about lore, because those of you who don't know me, I am big lore junkie. I love stories. Stories are great. And there are some stories that I feel like Cyberpunk has some really great ones. They've got some really memorable characters. But there is one group that I really want to talk a lot about in this section. And so I'll probably wait just a little bit. We're going to talk about some other stuff first. But there's a group I feel like that has been underutilized by our Telstorian games and underwritten about in Cyberpunk, because they've got one story where they're a cohesive unit. And for most of them, we have not heard much about them at all in the wake of their one adventure. And this is something that one of these days I need to ask some of the Artel guys why, because I'm like, you're trying to set this up, and I feel like we haven't seen these characters enough. But yeah, we're going to talk across the generations. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the 20s, the 70s, and the bulk of this is going to be talking about Red, because we do like Red quite a lot here on this podcast and our channels. Let's talk. So Diamond, I suppose to kind of introduce the topic here, of all of the Cyberpunk characters, you can pick from any era, regardless of how prominent or important they are to the overall story. What would be, like, I suppose, your favorite character from the Cyberpunk universe? Established character.
Oh, goodness. Gosh, gotta do that.
I do, because if you need a moment,
you already know who your favorites are, but like,
I do.
Oh,
if you need a second to think, I can talk about my favorites, because
go ahead, talk about your favorites.
Yeah, totally. So in the 20s, I would say Raish Bartmoss is probably my favorite. From the 20s, because goddamn, what a man. Man can bring the whole world to its fucking knees in a matter of just a few short years, all because he was asked to write a virus. And goddamn, his act was originally, as we discovered, I think it's been talked about before, but this Gen Con, they further reinforced it. The idea that the Fourth Corporate War series was Firestorm, was supposed to have a third book that we never got called Data Crash that was literally going to explore all of Raish's shit. We've kind of gotten it piecemeal in books since then. And wow, what an act. What a fucking crazy act that was of his. So yeah, Raish Bartmoss is easily one of my favorite characters of the entire timeline, honestly. But the 20s especially, because that was kind of when he was active. The fact we have a callback to him in 2077 is just beautiful. Icing on the cake. Love that. So then, skipping forward into the time of the Red, that gets a little trickier. So I might hold off on that one just because that's a bit of a difficult question to answer because there's a couple that I would place in fairly high regard. You know what? Actually, no, I do have an answer for it, and it's not a Netrunner. It is Rex Royale, and that's mainly it's mainly due to the way that Phantom, who was my original GM who introduced the game to me, portrayed Rex Royale. Because like if you go by the art in Black Chrome, he looks very goofy, but like the way that Phantom played him off as a character in our campaign was very suave, mysterious, almost like Mr. Blue Eyes in 2077. That's very, very close to how he portrayed Rex Royale. Even down to like having blue cyber optics and like sleek chrome everywhere. He even had like a little Robo Jaguar that like served as like a home security drone, which was like extremely cool. Lived out of a penthouse above like an old factory, basically. So like, you know, cheap real estate that still lived close to the street, but still above it. Because of course he's a big ass fixer. Like, what are you going to do? So like, I love Rex Royale. He's always got like a soft spot in my heart. He's always got a great place, I think, at my table. I will never stop thinking of him in extremely high regard. And then 2070s. Wow. Yeah, that one's really hard. That one I actually would have to think about because there's a lot more characters than I think most people would consider for 2070s because a lot of them are just written about. We actually never meet them. Some of them are just in data shards, but they have like just as complete of backstories as, if not more complete, than some of the characters we currently have in Cyberpunk Red, which is like crazy to me. Like, for those of you who want a real rabbit hole, look down the bad rabbit hole, B@D, in 2077. And oh my God, bad has so much lore about them. But has that vamped for enough time for you to get an opinion figured out?
So, in particular, there's a... So from the 2020s, probably all the way to the time of the Red, and it's just maybe personal bias on how they were portrayed when you know I had first encountered them playing Cyberpunk Red. It's the Freemans, all right. Yeah,
I thought you
John
might say that.
And Marianne, those two. Well, John being a fixer that like outside, you know, simply being known as the Professor, John was actually a soldier that was part of the South Am Wars. Due to a serious injury, he was a captain for the Army Rangers, but due to a serious injury, he got kicked out of the Army, and fortunately for him, he didn't have to do the long march home. But he had went back to grad school to go finish his PhD, which was in 2009 on military history. And he ended up in 2011, just before the events of the original Cyberpunk box. Ended up putting together the Forlorn Hope, along with other soldiers.
Yeah.
During the construction, though, he met Marianne, a transgender woman who during the time of of Cyberpunk's first box, she had just transitioned. She was 38, he was 43, I think, when they met.
That sounds about right, because even the Forlorn Hope's clientele at the time was like all war vets and very, very
war vets and grizzled solos.
Yeah, and their clientele was they were the old men in a young man's profession kind of thing. Where they're the old people coming out of this, despite the fact that it is grisly, violent, and high mortality work. So like, yeah, that would check out if they were in that demo at the time, because that for edge running especially, that is old. Like 38 to 40 is like, that is crazy.
And then, of course, at some point, because the Forlorn Hope wasn't always in Little China, like where it is in Time of the Red, which makes me think the Forlorn Hope isn't so much a place; it's more the people.
Yeah, I mean, the afterlife moves around like that too, so it kind of makes sense. Like, one place closes or something happens, and then you have to move, right? It just is the way of it.
Which, of course, the Forlorn Hope crew would allow Rogue to come in to meet some of the up-and-coming edge runners that weren't, ready to even set foot in the afterlife.
Right.
But, like, John very much was, though a fixer, he was a, benevolent soul to his, fellow veterans. And Marianne, well, she apparently, according to her biography, she's a little bit motherly towards transgender edge runners and helping them get the resources. Which, honestly, in a time like the time of the Red, care like that, I imagine it's got to be so hard to come across. Let alone like how hard it is to get care nowadays in our fucking timeline. But that's a different rant. But there's just kind of a charm about like what those two, like the operation that they run, like what it means to the edge running community, that there's kind of this, in a sense, like safe haven / hub for them to be at. And by the way, did you know, coming out later this year, there's a book involving the Freemans called Tales of the Red, Forlorn Hope.
Yeah.
Go check it out.
It's our Red look at what the bar has become, because we see it mentioned very briefly as the center of one of the Scream sheets. I forget if it's on the core rulebook or the data pack, but it's Hilaria 2045. Yep. And Hilaria gets mentioned a couple of times in Danger Gal dossier as well, as like an inciting incident for a couple of
apparently the bozos tried to attack the Forlorn Hope.
Yeah.
So
they made a choice. Very poor choice, but they made a choice.
I mean, but it was just a joke.
That Scream sheet is, oh my god, just a prank, bro. Sure, we tried to Molotov your bar, but it was a prank, bro. But the Hilaria is the first glimpse we get of the Forlorn Hope in the time of 2045, and the Tales book that's coming out before the year's end, and it kind of sounds like that's creeping closer based on some of the hints we kind of heard to that at Gen Con. We even had games running where it was like the first gig in the, and we're not going to talk about the contents of that. I'm not going to talk spoilers about that.
Oh yeah, the Angel Share.
The Angel Share, though, is the first gig out of the 6-gig campaign that book is going to contain, which is it was very well written. I quite enjoyed that. So like the fact that we got a full demo of that this far out, or like not this far out, but like at this point we already have that, tells me that we're probably not long until we see the rest of it. So I am very excited for that book.
I let the rest of them know if they want to know what happens afterwards.
Yeah.
After that adventure, they go get the book.
It's very
now. Yeah, the Freemans, they're kind of my pick for 2020 and Red, just because, like, I mean, the Forlorn Hope was, my home bar for when I did my first Tales of the Red campaign and other, adventures as well. So I don't know. I have a strong bias for it. I'm very surprised though you didn't pick 3-piece and brain for the time of the red for you.
I use 3-piece a lot. I'd say that, like, if I had to pick a low-level fixer that the party can get gigs from early on, 3-piece is my go-to 90% of the time. I love Short Circuit. Rex just has a different kind of place in my heart, though. Like, Rex has always been just like the emblem for me of the red. Is Rex Royale. So, like, yeah, it's a little weird. He just has a little more history with me. 3-piece though is definitely not far behind. I would say he's like a good second or third probably, because I'm like kind of tied between him and probably Recluse for who I'd put above that for Time of the Red. I just feel like we don't have enough lore on Recluse to really have me make a really good decision on. I guess we don't for 3-piece either, but at the very least, we have lore for Short Circuit, which is like, that adds enough, like layered on top. And we also have like a 1-pager that describes his night market and kind of who he is and stuff. So we have a little more lore on 3-piece than we do for Recluse. But I would not be disappointed if we got a little more Recluse lore.
Also, PWB, yes, we do make our own locations. One of my favorite ones that I've made is called The Hollow. It's located in the University District. If you are an Elflines Online fan, you know about The Hollow. You go play cards at The Hollow. You go play Elflines at The Hollow.
Yeah.
You go drink, raspberry flavored Smash over at The Hollow.
It's health potion flavored. That's what they'll tell you.
Yeah, it's health potion flavored. Mana potion.
Yeah. I also use it in the gig that I released on my Patreon shortly after Gen Con, Pay to Win. So any of you who are looking for an Elflines based gig that you want to run, that is out there. It is freely available. The document itself is 50 pages long. And if I took a few moments, I could grab the print copy I have, because I printed a very, very limited run of them, just because I can't sell them. But I wanted to have a physical thing that I could give to friends, family that like helped support it. So I have a physical copy, but they're very, very rare.
But I gotta say, for the 70s though, probably my favorite canon character from the 70s. I know there's a little bit of a bias about it, but Judy is one of my
good.
And it's not just because lesbian. No, she's just there's more substance to Judy below the surface than than the grouchy tech that we first meet. That her story and like everything that leads up to either us leaving Night City or whatever ending we choose. Judy is stays by V's side
right
most of the way.
Well, and there's a fan theory that, and I forget who was the one to promote this idea, but I kind of dig it, that there was at some point in development, it seemed like there was a ending where Judy could help fix V's condition. Without spoiling too much about 2077, because I know there could still be some people out there who haven't played it. Although I imagine if you're here listening to a Cyberpunk podcast and you haven't interfaced with 2077, you are indeed a rare breed, especially for as big as we are. We're not. So it's one of those things where that is an intriguing idea to me, because like of all the people in Night City who potentially would have the technical prowess to pull something like that off, Judy is one of the very few on the street that would potentially be able to do that. And I really kind of dig that theory. And it's not, I think, any accident that I think the sun is the most hopeful ending. If I always forget which tarot card symbolizes each one, but I believe the sun is the ending where you leave with the nomads.
Yep.
And if you've romanced Judy up to that point, She
Judy
goes with you, which is really cool. Like extremely, extremely cool.
Compared to Carrie or River.
Yeah, they don't leave the city with you. Which kind of makes sense because too much of their life is tied up in the city, whereas Judy is already
Judy was ready to go.
Yeah, she's already debating leaving the city, and she even says like, "You're the only reason I haven't left yet." And so if you leave, she's going with you because you're the only thing she cares about, which is beautiful. Honestly, it's really great.
I suppose, though, if we had to look at, and that was looking at 77 without Phantom Liberty. With Phantom Liberty, though, Kurt, this man manages and wrangles a combat zone that hasn't imploded on itself.
Yeah, I mean, Kurt is...
God, those two.
Mr. Hands is incredible. Kurt is very Apocalypse Now. And like he is the self-proclaimed kind of ruler of a kingdom he has defined for himself. And just so happens to have all the gear needed to do it. But like, is anyone really surprised with Kurt in that regard, right? Because like when you hear about the Metal Wars and things like that, they were flying very hot and close to the sun with like a ton of gear to the point that they were able to just march across North America, taking free state after free state after free state. And the only thing that stopped them from continuing the trend with Night City was the fact Night City called out to Arasaka and Broker to deal with them. That is the only thing that stopped Militech, which is insanity. So the fact that Kurt was just part of that force is like, it's respectful. Like you could respect the hell out of the fact that like he's built this thing, but yeah, Mr. Hands I think is, for me at least, a more interesting character.
Well, the fact that Hands like, I pitched the idea if I do a 2077 campaign, it's going to be very much more Hands' big play to take Pacifica, and scoop it up, out of Barghest's reach at that point. Oh gosh,
yeah.
I wonder how Barghest is gonna. I wonder if they're gonna write some gigs that involve Barghest at some point, though.
I don't know if we'll get full gigs, but like, they can't write a 2077 sourcebook, which we do know is coming. We don't get one without Barghest being included. They include Dogtown in the CEMK, so like I don't see them not talking more about Barghest and like some of the lore around that maybe in a future thing, right? So I guess I don't think it's probably surprising if both of us, because I know your answer on this probably already, Diamond, just based on our talks around the time CEMK came out. Which era of Cyberpunk do you like the best?
Time of the Red.
Yeah, that's what I thought. And I'm a little more torn between the 70s and Red, because I think both have a lot of really interesting things going on. I think ultimately I do like Red most, just because there's a lot more you can do with like the way the economics of the world work and the way that everything kind of is interlinked in the Time of the Red. It's a much more frail sort of like period, but I forget who, I think it was James talked about this at Gen Con. He said it's also really interesting because the corporations are at their least powerful if we're talking about their ability to like influence the world over. That doesn't mean they're not powerful, and if anything, it makes them even more dangerous because they're like cornered animals because they have nowhere else to run. Whereas, yeah, like in the other eras, they kind of wield power and authority with impunity and ubiquity. Whereas in the Time of the Red, they're like, we are the only thing holding our power. There is no easy soft power outside of a handful of examples like Continental Brands. So like the way I look at the way I look at Time of the Red is just, yeah, there's a lot of dynamics. So it should come off as no surprise that now that I've kind of like, we've talked a little bit about our favorite characters, let's talk about the most underserved and underappreciated, underwritten about group of characters in the entire lore time, and that is the Cyber Six. So, for those of you who are just like, Emmerron, what the fuck did you just say? The Cyber Six are a group of edgerunners that get mentioned one time. And they are sold to us as kind of the inheritors of like some of the legacy of like Johnny's crew out of the 20s in Black Dog. So if you read the back of your core rulebook, which I know all of you have, you'll see a story named Black Dog. And it is a story. It is not like a proper mission, although you could probably run it like one if you really wanted to. But there is a group of 6 people, 6 edgerunners that make up this crew. And among them, we have Kepler, we have Numo, we have one that actually we hear plenty about in other supplements, and I'll be talking about a lot less as a result in this section, Trace Santiago. We have Damien, and we have Zara and Lilia. And the interesting thing about these people is that they were created with the help of actual people who like kind of helped write for them, which I wouldn't be surprised if because of that they haven't been written about quite as much, because maybe those people need to be able to have some input, or Artel wants them to be able to give their input. However, because they are positioned as a group in a way not dissimilar, because in other sections of the book we get rehashes of like things we've seen in other cyberpunk books, like the 2013 story, which would be Never Fade Away, and then in the 2020 book, well, by the end of the 2020s we get The Fall of the Towers, which both are stories that get talked about in the beginning of the Red Core rulebook. Black Dog is presented at the end as a sort of introduction to like, here's the Time of the Red. And I just feel like this cast is like, they're great. They've got character, they've got personalities, they've got goals. The only one we've heard about since the core rulebook got printed is Trace Santiago. And I'm just like, why? All these other characters are so interesting. I want to know more about people like Kepler and Numo, because they're like just as involved in the nomads in a lot of ways as Trace is. Trace just happens to be the big media face, but those two have like got day-to-day operations sort of figured out. The others are just, Zara is really interesting. She fights with a bow. There's like almost no other people we know about in the Time of the Red, outside the ones that like Diamond and I've cooked for, like ELO, for example, that fight with bows. Like, these characters are so interesting. Like, Diamond, what's your take on the Cyber Six?
So, I read through Black Dog, and the personalities that the party members bring together, it meshes in just the right way to where it's a slightly dysfunctional family. But like seeing, that of like Zara, for example, was a high riding fucking merc that was worked as a bodyguard for some of the wealthiest of the criminal underbelly, until basically someone hung her out to dry out on the data pool, and then she had to go underground in order to survive afterwards. So we see what how somebody loses it all and ends up in the state that they do. Sort of like what was your crisis? And we see what Zara's crisis is, and I want to follow up more on this. I feel like this would be a great gig to follow up with, is doing a hit on behalf of Zara. trying to find who was involved.
Right. And I'm like, there's such rich soil here for like future stories to be told, which is why I think like it's so weird that like Trace is the only one that we've seen anything further about of this crew, because there's so many of them that have like very interesting like premises, backstories, etc., that have been like kind of very lightly touched on in either the sidebars or the content of Black Dog. And I'm like, why do we not know more about any of these characters? It feels so weird that we don't know more about them when they're given this really kind of flashy introduction.
Also, of course, you know, we have a, you know, rocker voice such as, you know, Lilia,
right?
Who is, you know, inspired off of someone that, you know, is, you know, a you know, real life influencer. And like all these characters take inspirations after actual people.
Right. Well, they were all written with the help of actual people. Like if you're interested, like I could recount them, but I think it's better if you guys go back just so that you have the full context of it. In each of their sidebars that give you details about them in Black Dog, at the back of the core rulebook, you'll see where it's like the character's name, you know, created with the help of, and then the name of the person that actually inspired them. And fun fact, this is the other reason why I think it's very, very weird that we have not gotten more on these guys. There's a photo of Mike, or yeah, I think it's of Mike Pondsmith with the crew, the Cyber 6 crew, at the back of the Afterlife bar, like in the back of it, on one of the shelves there.
Are you serious?
Yes. That's where I'm like, you can't have this all, like, you have a cameo, you have established characters, all these people are there. Why do we not know more about them? Like, it drives me nuts, because I'm like, you made a big deal about these people now. They have a whole story in the back of a rulebook. They have a photo in your 2077 game. And like, we don't know anything about any of them except for Trace, really, outside of what the gig and the sidebars touch on. Like even as like an introductory segment of like a DLC, we haven't seen any of them talk at all. And I'm like, we've seen Samantha again before we have seen any of them.
All I'm saying, Jay Gray, bring us back to Cyber 6. I'm telling you, they probably got buried somewhere out in that desert. Nobody's telling us the truth.
But they didn't, because Trace got back. That's what I'm saying. They didn't. They couldn't have. Because Trace came the fuck back. So all of them had to come back. I'm so fucking confused. They are literally the reason we have Black Dog as a song in the 2070s.
Right.
That was them. That's the whole point of the gig. Like,
Jay Gray, we demand answers. We demand them. We've done so much hard work for you.
Please.
We demand them.
Give
us the answers.
Give an answer.
We know you're listening.
Give, please. I need to know, why the fuck don't we know more about the Cyber 6? It is deeply upsetting that we know nothing about this crew.
Fuck it. We go to PAX. We take the cameras, roll into Jay. Fucking Fiona Hayes asked the hard-hitting questions. What happened to Numa? What happened?
I genuinely want to ask on the record for someone. Jay Gray probably is the easiest one to get the answer out of. James might know as well, though. Like, why have we not gotten more stories that feature any other members outside of Trace of the Cyber 6? Because, like, that's very strange that 5 characters that are that well teased and established just have nothing in the 4 years since the game has almost 4 years since the game has come out. We have like nothing about any of them.
And you know, speaking of characters and like we even get cameo of Morgan Blackhand's quotes from Blackhand's Guide to Street Weapons. And
Yeah, well, but to be fair, that is recycling old content that they already had in past rule books. So at least it's not new. If it was new Morgan Blackhand stuff, that would be a little bit like, okay, what the fuck? But like, recycling old content is whatever. Like that, those are just good quotes. I'm okay with that. Like,
so I'm gonna go over to people and some of the movers and shakers of Night City here. Bess Isis, we see her in Cyberpunk 2077. Blacklist, we don't see them yet. David Ling Poe, we get mention of what he's doing in Tales of the Red Street Stories.
Yep.
And also, if you pay attention, you'll find out also Tales of the Red Forlorn Hope. Dr. Edward Michaels, leader of Night City University. We haven't gotten anything from him. Fiona Hayes. She literally now is in Danger Gal Dossier.
She exists in every era. She exists in every fucking era.
Do we see her in the 2070s?
Fiona Hayes?
Is that her?
She straight up is like, hello, this is Fiona Hayes with the news. She comes on as part of one of the news programs that you can watch. She went from a...
Oh, okay. It's not the blonde woman. All right. Okay. All right.
That... Hold on, that might be her. I need to look. I'm gonna literally be looking up YouTube right now.
Oh gosh.
That might actually be her.
Fireman. Well, actually, we have Hornet show up, but not Fireman yet.
Yeah, well, Fireman's mentioned in the core rulebook, but that's okay. Like,
Hornet's got his own whole DLC.
I mean, to be fair, and Hornet is Cody's character, Cody Pondsmith's character from the 20s. So, like, Hornet is Hornet. Like, but
Lucas Rhine shows up in 2070s. Mr. K shows up in Black Chrome and is mentioned multiple times in other books. Nostradamus, also mentioned in Collecting the Random. The other Dr. Bob is mentioned in Black Chrome. Phoenix Redwind, she's mentioned also in she's mentioned in the Punk Knot.
Oh, interesting. Apparently,
Rex Royale. What's up?
So apparently there's... I need to look at the details on it. But there is So there's some stuff in Phantom Liberty involving Fiona Hayes. But yeah, she does. No. She does have dark hair. But there's apparently... You can find her actual office. That's very interesting. It's very interesting. I will wait and I will look at that another time because I'm not going to do that while my audio's piped through for the podcast. But yes, there's some Fiona Hayes content in Phantom Liberty, which is very interesting.
Rex Royale shows up multiple times. Yes. Rogue also shows up. It literally has a whole scene in Tales of the Red.
Like, I mean, like, I'm not here to lament every character that's gotten screen time over the Cyber 6. I am here, though, to point out that we have, like, these characters that have equal presentation screen time in a lot of cases, like Rogue, like, not Rex so much, because he didn't show up in either of the other eras, but, like, Rogue definitely did. Johnny has absolutely made an appearance in all of them. Black Dog is partly about him. And, like, we've seen several other characters that are, like... Yeah, Carrie. Well, did Carrie show up in the Red? I mean, he's there. We know he's
the landlord of Silverhand Studios.
That's right. You are right. Yep. So, yeah, Carrie's around. So, like, these other characters that we've seen loop across the various eras, the Cyber 6 have just as much of a presence as a cameo. And it's like, we don't know anything about any but one of them, and I want to know more.
There's got to be so much more of these people that, you know, even if they did show up for a DLC.
Yeah,
or
that's all I'm saying is they just need, let them be the voice at the start of a DLC sometime, because, like, surely there has to be like somewhere where like Lilia can show up with like a Rocker Boy DLC or something like that, you know?
I thought they were going to show up in Danger Real Dossier personally.
Yeah.
Nothing against Team Monster. Nothing against Team Monster. But I feel the Cyber 6 would have been a better Edge Runner crew to put in there.
Well, see, and I don't want to say that necessarily, but even if they'd included them in the Edge Runners chapter, the fact that we don't have anything for these characters, like, again, I think we have a stat block for Trace Santiago, I believe, in Tales of the Red
Plus.
Yeah. We have no stat blocks for any of the other Cyber 6. Like, even if we had just that, it would be helpful. Just so we know better, like, who are these people? What do they value? Mm-hmm. What kind of skills have they built? Like, we get again, all of this, we get a taste of it. But we have not gotten, like, real definition on, like, who are they? What are they after? What do they want? And it's like, I just want more. Give me more stories.
Watch as we actually air our concern of this, and this pops up later.
Right, it'll be like August's DLC or some shit, where we're just like, yeah, so by the way, here's what the Cyber 6 have been up to. What was that?
New faction DLC.
New faction DLC. The Cyber 6. Oh my god. Yeah.
We got Valhalla as a faction DLC, and I honestly like it.
I mean, Valhalla's cool.
Yeah.
I really want the Cyber 6. Giving me more stories about these guys.
But like a lot of the other faces like out there, like for example, Morgan Blackhand. I know that it somewhere on the record, or at least murmured about, that Mike Pondsmith is not letting CD Projekt Red touch Morgan until Mike is done with Morgan.
He said it at last year's Gen Con. Yeah, there was on one of the panels he said, like, I asked CD Projekt about what, because he initially was asking about the Forlorn Hope, because of the fact they want to use that in the Red, obviously, for like the upcoming book. And the CD PR guys were just like, yeah, like, I mean, you can do that. If we need to move the thing again, something else can move it, right? But like, if you establish like this is where it is in Night City, like that's totally fine. However, don't touch Antarctica, or what they told him. And he's like, well, I wasn't, but why? And they're like, just don't touch Antarctica. And so that's the other conspiracy theory, is what the fuck does CDPR have planned for Antarctica?
What's in Antarctica? I don't think there's any lore on Antarctica.
We don't know. And yeah, you're right. There's none. Zero. I don't think we even have some in 2020. I could be wrong about that. I've not been as comprehensive about reading those books yet. But something's coming in Antarctica. But yeah, in that same seminar, he mentioned like Morgan Blackhand came up, and basically he said, I told CDPR that if I can't touch Antarctica, or if I can't touch Antarctica, then they can't touch Morgan Blackhand until I've had my last word with him, because I do have plans. And I'm like, interesting. Tell me more. I want to know. So for now, at least, it seems Morgan Blackhand is firmly on the side of RTG. They have control over when that character next makes an appearance. We don't know when it'll be. We have no idea the context, but we know that they've got that power. That's all we know, if Mike is to be believed. Because what Mike says at a convention is maybe, plus or minus trustworthy. We'll see. We'll see. He's been known for saying things, and the audience takes him at his word, and sometimes that's to their detriment. So we will see. TM.
I suppose, another person that just, I feel, I don't know if maybe I gotta look through the books, but like Shaitan, where the FBC that was with Johnny's crew, where he ended up disappearing off to. Because because I was reading through Fall of the Towers and it looks like he didn't die there.
No. Yeah, Thompson, that would be an interesting character to kind of see come back.
Yeah, Thompson as well, yeah.
Yeah. Because I was thinking about, because he was on that crew too, and like, sure, Johnny beat him to a pulp, but I don't think Johnny ever killed him.
No.
So.
And then, I mean, we all kind of got an idea of what happened to Spider Murphy. We
know.
Got a theory.
Well, and we know, because we know Nomad Santiago is still around in the Time of the Red. Like, he's still kicking. But we don't know what he's up to. Like, that's something like Phantom has taken a stab at that in our campaign that we've run off the back of Tales of the Red. But it's very interesting. Like, because we don't know much about him. And it's just like, we know Trace, his son, is kicking around, making quite the name for himself. Which again, I'm like, why do we only know about Trace? I get he's the only tie-in the Cyber 6 has, like a direct tie-in, I should say, to like a major Cyberpunk character outside of being like a fan of Johnny's or whatever. But even so, why do we not know more about the Cyber 6? I will keep railing on this.
Like, but like other than that, like a lot of these other members of the Cyber 6, like compared to, I hope to see more from them, but I also hope that maybe we can get some conclusions to what happened after the bomb with some of these other folks at some point. Like Blackhand, I mean, sure, they could keep him as a mystery, but at some point he's gonna die. He's human.
Right. I think one of the things if I remember right, that like Jay Gray and some others from RTG have said on the record about the Fall of the Towers and why they're intentionally kind of vague about it is because there are a million different ways, depending on how your group plays through it, that gig could have ended, right? And so they want to honor the fact that everyone's group could technically have had the canonical ending, right, to how that played out, with obviously some allowances for things like Morgan Blackhand, Johnny Silverhand, all of that. But as I understand it, the player in the way the gig is written in 2020s, the player crew takes one route and the canon characters take another route. They're like a separate team. Mm-hmm. So like what the players experience kind of is independent of what happens on the other team, and which is kind of where they've like left themselves the ability to like interpret the events in a canonical light. That said, yes, I wouldn't mind some clarity around what exactly happened at some point, right? Because we know we've heard some suggestions of what could have happened with regards like Adam Smasher, for example. Like there's some teases in the CEMK talking about him saying like maybe the real Adam died that day and maybe the thing that's running around today is a brainwashed copy. Like, which is terrifying in a whole different way. But
one of the other Artal staff, and I'm not gonna mention a name just to save them the wrath of Rob.
Right.
Just, there's a suggestion that Smasher might just be a soul killed engram that keeps getting plugged into another body.
I love that as a theory. I think that's got some real teeth. Because it is, like, if Arsak has been fucking with this tech since the 20s, and, like, it's now just public in the 70s, it's kind of like that age-old wisdom, I say, because this is more on the realm of conspiracy theory, I feel like, than fact, but we've seen it play out a particular way a couple times. If the military is telling you about a program they have, understand that program is probably older than you think by an order of magnitude. And I would assume Arasaka follows a very similar thing of like, okay, you've had Soul Killer, we know since the 20s. No shot that you didn't fuck around with some of the related tech or reliant tech that introduces, like engrams, before Relic came around. Like, that R&D has been in development for a long, long time. And Adam could just be a beta of what we see later on with that. Like, that's very possible, I think.
But with that in mind, though, do we have anything for Q&A?
If that's the case, why not make an army of Adam Smashers? Well, one, all of Adam's gear is like heavily tech upgraded. And for all we know, they could be slowly working their way toward that. The other thing is you need a psyche that won't just shatter and still remain obedient. So I imagine that even if that is their plan, they are probably...
Also, I bet it's hard to manage, like a one-man army like Adam as it is. Why would you want to take the risk of putting any more than one in your armory?
Right.
Also,
well,
it would raise a lot of suspicion.
Well, like, you could probably have a small group that, like, two of them are never anywhere near each other at the same time. Because, like, there is a theory that gets proposed in the CEMK that, maybe Arasaka does have more than one. And they've been deploying him on and off all over the world. And, like, potentially they're able to deploy more than one at the same time to different combat theaters. Which is terrifying to think about. But yeah, I think that in order to keep up some of the soft power that figure gives you and doesn't drag the regulators of the world down on your throat, or your adversaries wanting to steal the tech. Because imagine, right, if it gets out that you have an engram that is just Adam Smasher and that your methodology for taming that beast is all that's needed to, like, get you, Militech, your own Adam Smasher. Your Netrunners would probably be hunting that shit down like it's a fucking golden goose egg. Like, you kidding me? They want that shit. So yeah, I think there is a benefit to the secrecy if that is true that they have that capability. It is a fascinating theory, though. It is a fascinating theory. And I for one, would love to see them explore Adam a little more deeply in that regard. I would like a little more clarity on that. But yeah, when you consider how expensive the tech that the Adam stat block we do have has, oh my god. Yeah,
I mean,
you need
the chain gun alone.
Holy jeebus.
One sec. Let me go see if there's a price tag on any of Adam's gear.
Well,
just by chance.
The Sandy we know is 250,000. We know the Sandy alone is 250,000, and we can extrapolate what the others start to cost. Because, like, let me think. Power chain gun, that's plus a D6. What? I mean, that's a tech upgrade. And the chain gun is based, it seemed, on a Tsunami Arms Helix. So, custom invention, that's 15,000 at a minimum.
Absolutely.
Specialties tech upgraded, linear frame Omega.
Also upgraded. It looks like a upgraded pop-up projectile launch system that has not one but 4 projectiles in it.
Yep. So that is like refitted repeatedly. Armor that does not have if attacked by melee weapons.
Or a penalty either for being Metal Gear.
Yeah, it has no penalty.
Like Adam's armor alone, I'd pitch at least
100,000, hands down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's also he's got specialty regenerative matrices to literally just pop the stuff back to max SP. Like, God, he's just, yeah. He is a walking weapons platform that is worth millions, I would guess, of eddies.
Self-ice and a regenerator for that ice on top of that.
Oh, yeah, and that can fire off multiple times per conflict. Like, that's not even limited. It's not like a one-time thing. It is literally like, oh, you tried to get in my head. Fuck off. No, you didn't. Get out of here. Like...
Oh, and also a pop-up auto shotgun. Because, of course, we need a pop-up auto shotgun as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, and a pop-up auto shotgun that thing's also got some benefits to it, I think.
Because I think that's just basically what? A hurricane that's just mounted into his arm that just does more damage than the hurricane. Yeah, 66 per slug.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought it was over damage. Just fuck. It's so it's so scary. Ah. Well, his chain gun's got like a is it autofire 5 or is it autofire 6?
Autofire 5. It operates as if it were a Tsunami Arms Helix, but just casually shoots, 10 rounds, 80 bullets.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
Like,
and it's a power weapon to boot.
And part of me makes me wonder, what did Adam look like between, him being a Samson back in 2020 to where he is now? Like,
I mean, tech upgrades, baby. It's probably just the Samson's linear frame package wasn't powerful enough to do everything they wanted to with him. That'd be my guess.
Well, I mean, and he was running around also as an IEC Dragoon as well for a time.
Well, and I think Dragoon is what his current form is based on. I think that the 70s is like a very... I mean, it's like it's kind of like Jay was saying about David Sandevistan of like, whatever it was before it got tuned to high hell, it's irrelevant because now it's a custom, and whatever it is, you need millions of dollars and some of the best tech in the world and the best techs in the world to replicate. Like, it is years of R&D, years of experimentation, all culminating in whatever the fuck that thing is.
And it's just like... But like, we see this with some of the canon characters though, and like for me, I kind of also want to know like what the fuck Carrie's got going on during like what his stat block looks like during the time of the Red as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can. Older. Yeah, like we could probably at least extrapolate his role level. I would assume he's like a Rockabye 7 or something like that.
Because he's world renowned by the time he hits. By the time the 2070s roll around,
right?
So he's at least Rocker Boy 9 at a minimum.
In the 70s, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, nine's probably where he'd sit in the 70s, I would say, because he's able to he pushes fans any way he wants them to go. Like, it's very, very hard for him not to get his way. So much so that he's not even a little concerned trashing us cracked shit in the side quests. But that's another thing.
And it's just we have a lot of these older folks that it's just like there may be a reason we may encounter them in Night City. It would be kind of nice to know where they're at this point, like what we're dealing with, what we're up against.
Yep, I agree. I think the Time of the Red still needs quite a bit of expansion, and this is why I'm like, for anyone who is like 2070 pilled and like really wants to play more in the CEMK era and stuff like that, I am with you. I think that there are a lot of very interesting things to do in that world that the tabletop will let us explore better than we could through V's eyes. That said, I think the Time of the Red has just a boatload of very interesting stories that Jay has still told us, like, there's plenty to come. And I'm like, well, I'm here for it.
I mean, let alone here in the and you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get a stat block for Nomad Santiago at some point here in with Rusted Chrome coming down the yeah, I know. We brought it back around full circle to some of the faces of Cyberpunk. Yeah, sure, we have Trace, but what about his father?
Well, and that would be, well, that'd be interesting too, because you could get Numo and Kepler in there. Because yeah, the two of them are nomads. So like,
and I think they're even Aldecaldos on top of all that.
Yeah, I mean the Aldecaldos are kind of like, they're the only family that readily operates around Night City. Like, there are some Thelis nomads that obviously work into the port, and some of the Jodes and stuff would probably come up from like Mexico and do business with some of the people. But more than any other band, you're probably seeing Aldecaldos and I guess Raf and Shiv. But like, Aldecaldos are the main, I would say, nomad faction that hangs around Night City with any kind of regularity.
Because, I mean, already we got Wakako from Danger Gal Dossier, like what she was before she grew up to be this very powerful lady of Japantown. But yeah, I imagine with Rusted Chrome we'll probably get some stuff on that. I wonder if we might actually get a stat block for Rogue as well.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Because Rusted Chrome is Nomad and Edge Runner economy compared to Fixer and Tech economy.
Right. That would be cool. That's where I was really surprised that despite her making an appearance in Tales of the Red, that we didn't see her stat block in Plus. Like, that surprised me. That was very, very interesting that we did not get a stat block for her.
I wasn't surprised if they were holding cards to their chest on that one.
I mean, it makes,
just because that was the second book.
One, it makes me think again of like the way that Jay described developing the 2070s material. Is like, if you want to do that, right? If they want to develop 2070s out, then we have to define certain parts of Red. So I almost wonder if part of that will give us a Rogue stat block, just so that we have her as a character in the 2070s, because we know she's still around, right?
Well, yeah, it could be 2070 source book, but I know she's a very different Fixer during Time of the Red, though, where she's still
right. But if you wait for that to be a thing, though, you can examine her in both those eras and kind of show continuity of her character, which would be interesting. I think from like the standpoint of players that are like you or I that have played quite a lot of Red, and we have like well-established characters that we play that were like, you know, you've got Dia, I've got 8-bit. And we wanted to carry those characters forward into the 70s. That would give us an idea of like, okay, how do you progress a character like that?
I made the joke that, she's probably in the columbarium by this point.
the diamond is? Yeah. I mean...
Oh, yeah. In a box.
See, the thing is, I don't know that 8-bit would be. I think 8-bit's one of those people that would be like, I want to just live forever, and if I can't, then I'm gonna upload my consciousness to the net. Like, he'd do that. He'd do some outlandish shit, because he's curious about all of that shit.
And then we also have the Night City 2045 source book coming as well, that might also offer some insights on a few other details of characters of the past. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this Cyber 6 makes an appearance then in the near future, because
that is a good point. I hadn't thought about that, but you're right. We are getting that source book. Maybe that's where we get Rogue as well.
Also, maybe on top of that, we might have another faction book coming. Maybe. It would be kind of nice. It'd be kind of nice to have another faction book that covers some of the other gangs out there that weren't covered in Danger Gal dossier.
Do you know something I don't?
Wait, what?
Do you know something I don't? Or are you just hoping? You're like...
It's just a thought.
Okay.
I hope to see.
You're just putting it out into the universe and be like, please, give me another faction group. Okay, I get you.
It's just a thought. Or at least, some more faction DLCs. I like having those on hand.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I think that having more than what we have in Danger Gal dossier, I think what would be interesting is as we get a bunch more characters with character, figures made by Monster Fight Club, I think getting another book like Danger Gal dossier to like both add stats to those characters, but also like allowing us by that same logic to get some of these other character stat blocks that we want. I think that could be very interesting to be able to do that.
Also, speaking of Monster Fight Club, apparently 6th Street showing up in Danger Gal dossier is a sneak peek for Monster Fight Club, actually. Because 6th Street's getting printed this year.
Oh, interesting.
So they're getting the Davis Squad.
Still waiting for a generic gang stat block. You mean like what? The generic ones from Combat Zone? Because like my understanding were like a bunch of those just got filed in with other groups, but I could be wrong about that. Because we already do have stat blocks in red for like Rooster Gangers, Road Gangers. Like we've got some simple stat blocks that you can utilize for like archetypes, but
I guess more specifically, like the Bozos mooks are in there as well, the Fools.
Here's some gangs. Here's their stats. Yeah.
I
guess.
I mean,
which gangs haven't? But I mean, like, which gangs haven't we seen, right? Like, because we've got the 6th Street, we've got Bozos, we've got Maelstrom. I think the main ones that we're missing would be like the Voodoo Boys of the 2040s, which are different from the 2070s.
I don't know if they're gonna actually really touch too hard on the Voodoo Boys because of kind of the mess that they are.
I mean, but they could. They could at least. Maybe they don't generate, figures for them, but we could get stat blocks for what like a prototypical Voodoo Boy is. We also don't have stat blocks.
The Reckoners.
The Reckoners. The
Primetime Players.
Inquisitors.
Red Chrome Legion.
Red Chrome Legion. Although I know we get an insight into what the Inquisitors look like, because like we've seen them. They're in. Well, we have the monk from Night at the Opera, who is an Inquisitor.
And they have Inquisitor mooks with them.
That's true.
The Steel Vaqueros.
Yeah, Steel Vaqueros. Yeah. They don't.
Do they have a stat block at CEMK?
No, they don't. They're mentioned, but they don't have an actual stat block.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like Road Gangers coupled with some of what we have flavored for the Aldecaldos give a pretty good, I think, example of what they could be.
I feel that like that is partially covered in the Midnight Encounter, like the gang fight specifics, like the gang fight encounter.
Well,
in
and Shocky, we do
Book.
for the Philharmonic Vampires. We actually do have some stat blocks.
Yeah, we do have stat blocks.
They're in Tales of the Red. Inquisitors, we've got stat blocks in Tales of the Red, so we do have 2 of those. Iron Sights, yeah, we don't have anyone for them.
Nope.
I think right now it's like Iron Sights, Red Chrome Legion, Voodoo Boys,
Primetime players.
Reckoners.
I guess Scabbers, quote unquote, are a gang, which honestly I wouldn't be opposed to being like, here's some examples of different types of Scabbers you might find out there. Like,
yeah, I could see
chance.
it. I could see it. I need to look at the stats presented in Karaoke Night because I haven't looked through that one yet. But it's for some reason, or is that all Maelstrom for
Maelstrom.
Karaoke Night? Okay,
That is Maelstrom.
and I'm not worried about it.
And their Scabbers, which Maelstrom has their own specific scabs.
Right. Which, although you could probably extrapolate that down with just lessening the chrome a bit, and like you probably get something pretty on point. Scavers are just bandits, kinda like they're a little iffy. Page 308, 309 core rulebook. Wait. What are we talking about with that?
So for the gangs that do have stats, we have Sixth Street's Davis Squad, which I'm looking at that one. We do have the Bozos, Big Tops Circus specifically, Maelstrom, which is some of the upper echelons of the leadership and some of the underlings and their scouts. We have the upper leadership of the Piranhas. And we do have many notable Tiger Claws as well.
Yeah. Well, and ironically, I think you could probably extrapolate the Piranhas membership pretty easily by using the stat blocks from Generation Red. Well, I was going to say Generation Red. Because part of the Piranhas is that they're a yo gang to a certain extent, right? Some of the younger members they're a little older than Generation Red, but like people like Blades from Generation Red are kind of that edge demo of like what the Piranhas will work with. And that's because if you remember, James mentioned something to us while we were walking. He's like, they are a little fucked up with the younger part of their
weird.
So we do have like, even if they're not named as like Piranhas, you can extrapolate what their lower tier is going to look like to a certain extent.
Oh no.
Oh yeah.
What did I sign myself up for?
It's all Scop, all the way down, Dia. Anyway.
I can helicopter sail.
Yeah. So yeah, we have the Bozos. We've seen Inquisitors. We don't have Iron Sights yet. We do have Maelstrom. We do have Philharmonic Vampires. We do have an idea of what the Piranhas are, and like their leadership and their younger ones are just the only kind of question mark. We can kind of figure those out with a little creativity. Primetime players we don't, but like they're one of those that like they could kind of be anybody. They're not really, in my opinion, they're not terribly difficult to imagine stat blocks for because they're kind of like everyday Joes. Poser gangs are interesting like that. They're not really like, unless they have like some very notable like chrome or something like that, they're kind of everyday people that just want a club to belong to, like to a certain extent, right? Reckoners we definitely don't have. Red Chrome Legion we don't have. Scavers we don't have. Steel Vaqueros we don't have. Tiger Claws we do, so that's 6, and then the Voodoo Boys we don't have. So of that, we have 6 of the, let's see, 1, 2, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we're only missing about half. Actually, we're missing exactly half because I didn't count Sixth Street at first, and we do have someone for them. So we're missing like half of the gangs that are in the core rulebook. We're missing stat blocks for them. And yeah, Yo-Gangers are on the line with people are good with, but the fact is that the Piranhas use Yo-Gangers. That is a thing. That is a real thing. So that is lore accurate. There's a reason we only have their upper echelon, because their rank and file are mostly Yo-Gangers. So yeah, that fun fact for you. But yeah, I think that some of these gangs, just based on where they're from and what their deal is, it's not hard to imagine them or reskin some of what we already have. Like 6th Street could easily be Iron Sights in the right context. Or you start amalgamating certain things. You start playing the use X stat block, replacing ... with ... that kind of thing. You start doing that dance of like, use this stat block and start replacing things. But yeah, I think getting a second faction book that explores the second half of the gangs would be kind of neat. I agree. I think that'd be kind of nice. And I think Combat Zone will give us an opportunity at some point. But yeah, any questions on your end of things there, Diamond?
I don't have really any questions on my side.
This is a reminder, everybody, that if you are here with us live, or if you're watching this later on YouTube or Spotify, we do have... Hello, Cold Spider. Welcome. We do accept Q&A, whether in our live chat, in our comments below YouTube, on comments on Spotify, which now are a thing, which is crazy, or to our email, wireheadspod@googlegroups.com. You can send it to us there if you have tried in the past and it did not work. It does now. I have tested it. So feel free to send us questions to any of those places. We answer them at the end of our show. If we don't have any right now, that is all good. It means we just get to wrap up a little early. But I don't know. Any last thoughts, Diamond?
Not really off the top of my head, but I really do hope to see a little bit more on like delving into notable characters in the city. It helps really breathe life into the setting. But I understand we're only like technically into like what, year 4 of the Cyberpunk Red, so
yeah, I'll be 4 years that it's been.
Technically 5 with the Jumpstart kit,
if you count it. I kind of count from the core rulebook just because like so much had to change between the two that they're kind of different. Yeah. But since the core rulebook came out in November of 2020, so it's almost 4 years. We're nearing the end of the 4th year. I mean, the JSK has some great missions, but as far as the reliability of lore and stories and stuff, it's not a reliable narrator. So that's why. Yeah.
I hope to see Red's JSK get refurbished. I hope so.
There's, as I understand it, there is a plan to. It's just a question as to when. But
so yeah, we'll at least have a box set to introduce people to the time of the Red as well.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the CEMK, which has been great so far. Good missions, good maps, nice dice, terrible rules. Yeah, I mean, the missions, the maps, and the dice are nice, but there's a reason that all of it has been out of physical print for so long, and why the digital of it, I think, is still just $10 under After RPG, because it's effectively just a mission supplement at this point. And yeah, I agree. Getting a fully refurbished version of that would be very, very good. But yeah, I think that's all I have for this week.
Same here.
Beautiful. Well, guys, again, if you have questions for us on this episode, whether over the topics we did discuss, if you have thoughts about either developing your enemies or the second topic, which we've covered on this half of the episode, which is the idea of like your favorite characters from across Cyberpunk, or what you'd like to see explored more, please say the Cyber 6. We need more support for that. But if you have questions about any of it, comments, feel free to leave those in all the socials we have mentioned. But as for us, I think that's going to do it this week on Wireheads. So again, my name is Emmerron.
I'm Diamond Dust.
There we go. She caught the prompt.
Sorry,
I'm
the
glad we flipped it.
teleprompter's not working.
It's all good. And I hope all of you have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Stay healthy, stay safe. We'll see you again next week. Peace, guys.
Bye-bye.